Oh, Google, why do you do this to me? How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I just have to talk about the Google event that went down. It was something, let me tell you that. It took me a few hours to even just digest it and come to grips with what had just happened. Let me just start off by saying the presentation was horrible. They have no idea what they're doing. It was almost kind of like watching a bunch of 15, 16-year-olds put something together 2 days before and just watching everything go down, you know, them making silly jabs, being completely off topic and going off into weird tangents. It was just very unprofessional. And something that also not a lot of people have noticed, but is something that is very important to look at here, is that Sundar Pichai, for the second year in a row, has not even shown up for these events. He doesn't show up, he doesn't address them, nothing. The least he could do, I feel like this is such an important product line for them, at least they're making out to be. This is, you know, Google hardware. He doesn't even show up to say good morning or address the crowd for the first 5 minutes. Nothing. It's just all random Google people. Sometimes I don't even know if they're Google employees. It just feels like they picked random people off the street and they're like, hey, give this address, you know, because that's the quality of work that they're doing. It's just not very good. Now, look, I'm not in that position, so I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not going to say that maybe I could do a better position than that, but I can definitely compare to other companies that are Google's size and say that this was objectively not as good. They went off into a lot of weird tangents. They had this weird, like, talk show kind of thing with Annie Leibovitz where they talked about the camera, but it made no sense to me. They didn't show the camera samples clearly. It was like really tiny and oftentimes not an afterthought. They were just focusing on what Annie had to say. It was like an interview in a product launch. It made no sense to me. While I've seen, you know, Apple does product demos, it's not something like it's a personal chit chat, sit down. It didn't make sense to me. That was something that should have been a 2-minute video Google pre-recorded and then showed at the event. It should not have been a live sit-down event. It just made no sense. And it was pretty clear that Annie Leibovitz was just kind of going along with it because she was paid to go along with it. It didn't feel like there was passion there. And speaking on that, it just feels like none of the Google employees who were presenting had true passion for what they were talking about. It was kind of just like, okay, you know, let's do it. The guy with the camera explanation guy at the end, I didn't like him at all. It was just the way he was approaching things. He felt very vindictive toward Apple. A lot of jabs there, but at the same time, wasting time. The way he talked about, there was this photo, okay? I'll try to grab a screenshot of it. He talked about this photo for like a good minute or 2 minutes and really went after it. You know, he was like talking all about it, about how great how impossible this photo is to get right because there's like so much exposure and dynamic range going on. And, you know, it felt like a build-up towards something Google was going to produce and show us, like, wow us with, like, hey, look, like how they wowed us with Night Sight. I felt like that was the build-up they were going for. But all he said was, yeah, this is something maybe we can do in the future.
Pixel is committed to making its cameras better with software updates. So stay tuned on this one. To sum up.
And it made no sense to me. Like, why talk about that for 2 minutes in an already, you know, very short presentation if there's not even a comparable image to show us, if there's nothing to talk about? It's just, you know, hey, here we go. This is something we could do in the future. It's like, it makes no sense. Like, why would you do that? It just looks like the project had no afterthought. You know, nobody nobody did this before once or twice and thought to themselves, hey, this kind of looks out of place. We're not going anywhere with this. Why don't we not talk about this? It was just stupid. So a lot of things they talked about felt very unnecessary, felt very tangenty. So,
and we couldn't get to all the product experiences today.
Now that I'm done going after the presentation skills, let's talk about the products that they actually announced. The Pixel Buds, Pixel Bud 2, whatever the crap they're called. I honestly don't even care about them. They're going to launch in early 2020, they say. Why are you, spring 2020, I'm sorry. Why are you announcing it now, 6 months before? It makes no sense. And that's my question also. They had 2 years. They launched the original Buds with, I believe, the Pixel 2, and they still haven't, updated it. And now that they announce an update, it's not even ready yet. And it wasn't even ready for product demo. Nilay Patel from The Verge, he tweeted that, you know, they have them out there, but at the demo section, but they're not working, which was crazy and funny at the same time, because why would you even unveil it if it's not even ready for demo? Well, at least, you know, hold on to that. You know, you could quietly update it or something later. It's just something that makes no sense to me. It's like, why do you need 6 more months for this? It's $180. I think it's overpriced. I think nobody's going to buy those, just like nobody bought the Pixel Buds, and everybody's just going to keep buying AirPods. Moving on, let's talk about the Nest product. They spend a disproportionate amount of time talking about Nest products, which nobody really cares about too much. You could quietly update it on the website, and you know, life would go on. People would still keep buying them. They talked about how they're using like recycled bottles to make these, all very much so acting like Apple, because Apple does give a lot of focus on the environmental concerns of the, you know, products they build. This definitely was not happening before with Google, so they're taking a lot of cues from Apple here, trying to imitate what they did. It just didn't play off as well. It kind of felt disingenuous, and I wasn't a fan of it. But, you know, yeah, there's a few new Nest products. There's the Google Nest Mini. It's supposedly better. Honestly, I don't know. The Nest Wi-Fi, which is the update to the Google Home Wi-Fi, the mesh network, that seems potentially cool. It's going to have up to 2 times faster speeds. Yeah, that's about it. It's about the same price as well. And that's about it for the Nest products. They did say that they were going to solidify and simplify the Nest subscriptions for the cameras. Good thing, you know, I still don't know why that's something you have to bring up in a presentation where you're showing off a lot of hardware. Now, let's talk about the Pixelbook Go. So the Pixelbook Go is their new Pixelbook. It's the update to last year's Pixelbook. You know, I never made a video about the Pixelbook, or I never really talked about it, but let me just say, at $1,000, that was a ripoff. Nothing that Apple shows you is as bad as a ripoff as that Google Pixelbook was. It was horrible, bad specs. I've used it, you know. I have personally used it. It is not as good as any normal laptop. You could probably buy a better $500 HP laptop than that Pixelbook. It is sorely underpowered. Chromebook is so limiting. Chrome OS is so limiting. That at $500 or $400, I'd be okay with all day. But at $1,000, that OS is extremely restrictive. It's kind of like having an iPad. You know, it's an iPad OS kind of, and it doesn't even have as much as iPads, to be honest. So with iPad OS, you can do a lot more now. I'd honestly recommend just buying an iPad over any Pixelbook. And then that design. So now they're trying to make the design look a little bit more different. I'm just going to stick with different. The bottom of it looks like a yoga mat to me for some reason. Just the weird rib design looks like a yoga mat. And it comes in black and pink. And they called their pink a revolutionary color. I forgot what exact term they used, but it was something so stupid. Our revolutionary not so pink color, something like that.
Pixelbook Go comes in just black and not pink, one of the iconic colors we introduced on Pixel 3.
They were so proud of it for some reason. I don't know why you'd be so proud of having a pink laptop, like of a pink colored laptop. No offense to people who like pink. It's just something is weird to boast about. Imagine me boasting about having a silver laptop. That's how weird it seems. It just makes no sense to me. Then finally, let's talk about the pricing of that. That's insane. The price starts at $650, which is at least an improvement from the $1,000 of last year, but you get only a Core M with 64 gigs of onboard storage. Now, I mean, everything is on the cloud there. It's trying to be an internet-only device, but come on. $650 is not good enough. You can buy a much better iPad for that price, you know, comparing it spec for spec, and you're probably going to get more done on that iPad, I can promise you. It's going to be way more competent than that Core M chip. It's just the simple fact. Apple A chips are just way better. They're probably what I think was their goal was $650 for that base price, you know, kind of just have that so people will look at it at least, consider it, and then if, you know, people who aren't that savvy, they'd like go into the store, talk about it, and they'd be like, hey, just buy the $850 one or $1,000 one that has the Core i5. That's a much better deal, and people might just do that. That's what I think their hope was. They're not really hoping people will buy that Core M version and kind of splurge and go for the $850 or $1,000 models, which I think that even at a $650, it's too much. So if you guys are in the market, don't buy the Google Pixelbook. You know, just buy, if you're just really looking for Chrome OS, there's so many good options that Samsung, LG, and, you know, all these other manufacturers make for way cheaper. Just go with those. And then finally, we're going to talk about the Pixel 4. I honestly don't want to talk about it because of how just, oh, God. So just to give you some context, the Pixel 4 has been repeatedly, I don't even want to say leaked, just, shown off by Google months and months before. I think they completely just showed off the design like in June. I'm going to have to go look that up. I'll show you the tweet they sent out. This was months and months before, it made no sense. Everybody knew what the design was going to look like. Nobody was impressed or nobody was excited by anything. The audience was so unenthusiastic. It was almost hilarious to a certain extent that they were not cheering for anything. It was just like, whatever. Because honestly, there's nothing to be excited about. We know everything. And even the leak stuff, nothing was exciting about it. There was the Project Soli, I don't know what the crap they're going to call it, but the Soli, it's like a radar on your phone, which I think Google thought would be impressive for some reason. But to me, it's just kind of like, why do you need a radar in your phone? There's a reason why no other manufacturers have radars in their phones, and whoever has tried the kind of radar kind of thing, LG, they haven't had much success with it because it's not practical. There's no current use case that they can demonstrate, and they still didn't demonstrate on stage because if they were going to put in a radar, at least give me a feature that's useful. So it kind of goes to be like NFC. Having NFC is great, but nobody cares if you have NFC. The only reason people want NFC is because you can make mobile wallet payments. You can use Google Pay, Apple Pay, and that's why people want NFC. Nobody cares about NFC. So what is the mobile wallet payment to NFC that is, for Soli? What is that use case? What are people going to use it for? I can guarantee you nobody's going to have their phone here and going to be like swiping over to change songs. Nobody does that. First of all, nobody listens to music while they're open. Like when I'm listening to music, my iPad, my phone isn't open on the music app. I'm doing something else, or the phone is locked in my pocket. That's just not a reason enough to add a completely separate sensor. Another thing that they talked about is that it's going to be able to recognize when you're close to the phone and when you're not, and kind of lock the phone out or turn off the display based on that. Now that could be potentially useful, but again, I don't see why you need a completely different radar sensor in there. I honestly, let me tell you what I think. I felt like Google was feeling left out of not having any cool technologies, and they're like, you know what can we do that nobody else has ever done? And they were just like, let's put in radars, and they just kind of flew with that idea, and they were so proud of how small they made their little radar sensor and everything, and oh God, I can't understand what the idea is behind it. I hope to be proven wrong, to be very honest with you. I hope I'm proving wrong, and Google comes up with some cool ways to implement that. It looks cool, but it's a feature that has no purpose for now. So let me talk about everything that's wrong with this phone, as if I haven't been complaining enough already. Okay, now I'm just going to talk about the things that Google moved back on. So the things that they were very proud of before, but now have moved back on. So they were very proud of only having a single camera on the back because that's all you needed. They moved back on that. They have 2 cameras on the back now. They shrunk the battery. So the Pixel 3 had a bigger battery than the Pixel 4, and let me tell you, the Pixel 3 battery life is pathetic. They should have increased it by a lot. Instead, they decreased They no longer give you headphones in the box, which they used to do with the Pixel 3. They no longer include unlimited full quality storage, which used to be a big selling point. Now, Google said that they don't need a lot of on-device storage because photos take up the largest amount of space, and they're going to let you put it all on the cloud, full resolution, and you're good to go because all that's going to be saved there. On-device, you're not going to have too much. Everything is on the internet anyways. That was their logic. Now, they're removing that Google Photos advantage. The free unlimited photos, they're no longer providing that. It's going to be it's still going to be like the free one they offer, but it's not going to be full quality. It's going to be high quality, which is limited to a certain thing. So it just makes no sense. You can get that free thing on any iPhone, any iPad, anything. So I don't know why it's something they went back on, but they went back on that, and they still stuck to 64 gigs as their base storage at $800. That is not the way to go. I know that I give Apple some slack for that, but I don't know if, it's a little bit hypocritical of me to go after Google for this, but come on, Google. 64 gigs on an Android phone is not enough. You just don't. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. Let's forget about the storage for a minute. Let's move on and look at other things. They have a worse screen to body ratio than last year. Again, them going back on their word. It's just so many things going back on their word. Now that I've covered what they've gone back on, let's talk about other things that they missed. So they added a 90 hertz display, no bigger battery, and you need a bigger battery because the OnePlus 7 Pro, that has a massive battery, but it still is horrible when it comes to battery life compared to other phones because it has the 90 hertz display. That's a big hit on your battery, and OnePlus understood that. That's why they gave you a massive battery, and it's fine. It gets through the day, but it's very noticeable that the battery is taking a big hit. It just doesn't make sense. They put in that radar for what seems to be the only two things. It's for if you're close to the phone and you want to, have the display on or something, and two, for the weird wavy gesture things that nobody, I promise you, is going to use after the second day of Pixel ownership. And I think that I have to talk about this. The cameras. So the cameras are, while they're impressive, they're really not. They don't have something. Let me just read out this list. It doesn't have an ultra-wide lens, which I know. We already talked about that. It doesn't do 4K at 60 FPS. Every phone, I think, every flagship phone right now can do 4K at 60 FPS. It doesn't do 60 FPS at all on the front camera. Doesn't matter if you're at 720, 1080, or 4K. No 60 FPS on the front camera. And they don't have the secondary ultra-wide front camera that they used to have on the Pixel 3. And all of this, all of these shortcomings, everything combined, it just, oh my God. So let me tell you something about the Google Pixel camera. So this was one of my favorite cameras for taking photos. So good, in fact, that even though I was disappointed with the Pixel 3, I bought it because I knew that the cameras were just a step above the iPhone. Even though the XS has great stuff in it, great camera, I think that in certain situations the Pixel could just do a lot better. But ever since the iPhone 11 came out, I don't feel the same way. The iPhone 11 can do low light photography. It has great portrait mode now, a lot more improved than it was before. It's got the great Smart HDR. It's had that since the XS, but I think it's even further improved now. They've got deep fusion, so it's got a lot of detail as well. They've got an ultra wide. They've got a telephoto. They've got a great front-facing camera. Now, I mean, that was something that was lacking on the iPhone before. No more. So right now, there is no reason for me to buy a Google Pixel 4. The only reason I bought it last time was because it was a noticeable step up compared to the iPhone. No longer is that the case. It's pretty much equal. I don't think it's even equal. Honestly, it's a step down. You don't get the ultra-wide. You don't get the same video quality. Video is, honestly, it's garbage on the Pixel. Nobody can argue with me that the Pixel video quality is good. I don't know why Google thinks that they can justify trying to, stay in this $800 price range. If this phone was $500, it would be a very different story. At $800 starting, it does not make sense. So it's hard to go from there. So there's a lot of missing specs here. There's just a lack of enthusiasm from Google themselves. They are very much so trying to keep up with Apple, but not able to keep up with Apple because they're not putting in the clear hardware they need to stay there. They're using outdated Snapdragon 855. They didn't even put in the 855 Plus that the 7T has had, even though the 7T came out like 2 weeks before it. It still had the 855 Plus, but the Google doesn't. They're still adamant about having only 6 gigs of RAM. Android needs way more. It ages horribly. My Pixel 3 with 4 gigs of RAM is struggling, it's not enough. Google is just, honestly, to sum it up, I think Google doesn't care. They don't care about their Pixel line. It's just something that's there to look good on their portfolio of products, but it's not something that they either want. They don't care about selling. They don't care about using. I don't know, it just feels so uninteresting even to Google that they don't care. So that's it for this one, guys. I'm honestly 90% not going to buy the Google Pixel 4. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna wait a little bit to form my mind on this, but you guys let me know what you think. Should I get the Pixel 4? Even if I get it, I think that I'm just gonna be way too harsh on it, and rightfully so. I think I should be a little bit harsh on it. I've loved, some of the things that the Google Pixels could do, but they've always had their issues, and this time there's just more issues than there's advantages to go for it. And not to mention, the competition has caught up. The competition was behind the first couple of years, but no longer are they behind. They've all caught up. In fact, Google is now way behind, I think. Let me know what you guys think about the Google Pixel 4 down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.